Photographic Composition, Lecture 8, Sports and Action, Part 2. Neil Leifer was a Sports Illustrated photographer who covered events in sports for well over 40 years. One of the subjects that he kept coming back to was Muhammad Ali. And Leifer was one of those photographers who understood the concept of right place and right time, and as much as anyone found himself there over and over again, as we can see here. Ali, as I say, was a subject that he kept going back to, and he would find a variety of ways of showing what life in the ring was about. In this case, we're looking at the back of his opponent and his trainer, and seeing Ali seemingly dwarfed, but at the same time looking very relaxed and extremely confident. Whether he won this bout or not, I honestly don't know. But certainly Ali won a lot more than he did lose. This is one of his most famous bouts, whom Leifer caught in a series of images. This is a full-frame version of an image that was also shown cropped. Not quite sure exactly why, except I can guess that the reason was to focus entirely on Ali's face. And that expression and his body language, I think, tell the story, even though we can't see Sonny Liston lying on the ground. Leifer also set up a camera up near the ceiling in the arena where that bout was being held, and could trigger it remotely so that he would be able to record action as it was happening. And nobody would call Gary Winogrand a sports photographer particularly, but he was interested in events, and for a while covered a number of them primarily when he was teaching in Texas. And here we see action taking place on the field, but as is typical of Winogrand, he wasn't particularly interested in what the action was, except that the frame was filled with moving people. And the relationships between them are a large part of what motivated Winogrand to shoot when he did. He also covered rodeos using a camera-mounted strobe, as we see here. And he also went to basketball games, and in this case, photographed cheerleaders during an event. Rock and roll certainly has had its history of action, and photographers have been there to record it. Here we see Pete Townsend of The Who was well known for his various jumps and gyrations during a performance. And this is an image of Jimi Hendrix in the concert that really put him on the map, burning his guitar. And here we see members of Van Halen during a concert. Pete Rose was a baseball player. His nickname was Charlie Hustle, and he holds several records to this day, from as far as I know. The notion that he was always in motion was paramount. And occasionally photographers would record him in action like this, where he appears to be just suspended above the ground. Walter Ayus is another well-known sports photographer, and one who would at times play with scale. We saw this also with Neil Leifer, Muhammad Ali, seen through between his opponent and the trainer. And here we see the shoe of a baseball player as Willie Davis of the Dodgers slides in to, I believe it's home, but I couldn't tell you that for sure. Rodeo is a great visual event, and although obviously the players are different, bears some resemblance to both baseball and boxing and even dance. And freezing the action is very revealing of what's going on. We get to see the expression of the athletes, but that's not the only way to convey action. Here we've seen images where the background has been frozen and the subject is blurred, and we've seen others where the background is blurred and the subject is frozen, and here everything is blurred and in motion. And here's an example of seeing the horses and riders frozen, and another. And these are tightly cropped with the intention of conveying that much more forcefully this notion of speed and action. And this is also something when covering an event like pole vaulting, where we have this implied sense of movement. A swimmer about ready to leap into the water. And a diver mid-dive, and with the body on a diagonal, which is a strategy that again makes this image look more dynamic than it would if the person was either straight up and down or horizontal. Here's an astonishing image of a diver jumping off a cliff. It's not only a picture of a diver, but it's a picture of a landscape. It's very surprising and doesn't happen very often that one sees this all happening in the same image, especially with the clarity that we see here. Pictures of race cars, if taken from the right angle, imply movement. It's true of these race cars that they have this look of being ready to move very quickly, whether they're moving or not. But finding the right angle to convey that is what at least was attempted here. And then there's real action that takes place in cars. And here we see that the photographer was panning with the cars, so they are virtually all crisp and clear, and the stands in the background have a blur to them. And again, a seemingly stationary car and blurred background. And blurred cars and stationary background.